Welcome back to the cave. We are the cave people. I apologize for the absence of Lewis in this video. He's currently out of town. And so he asked me to create some content for the channel so we can keep the momentum going here. And so I decided to do a review of the game, asked him which game he would like me to do a review of by myself. And he chose this one, Teotihuancan, City of Gods, the Deluxe Master Set. So before we get into this and what this is all about, I would like to say that if you have not already checked out our top 20 board games of all time video, that was done with myself, my son, and my daughter. Please give that a view, and if you like what we do here, give the channel a like and a subscribe. We are almost at 100 subscribers, which for us would be just massive because we're just kind of out here for fun, doing our thing, and trying to put ourselves out there a little bit. So that is what it is. And then there was another question that came up the other day, and that was why does the channel call itself the Cave People? And I can tell you. So the Cave People this is a very long kind of story of where this originated, but we did a whole lot of gaming in my old basement, in our old house, and we did it in the unfinished part of the basement, much like we're doing here, and we used to call it the cave because it kind of looked like a cave. And so we used to say, hey, we're going down to the cave to game. And therefore, that's how the Cave People came to be. So we are still here in the unfinished part of our basement in the new house. But we're going to keep it that way because we wanted to call it the cave. So when we were talking about finishing the basement the other day, my son's like, well, then it wouldn't be the cave anymore. And I was like, yeah, you're kind of right, but it sure would look a lot nicer. Anyway, Teotihuacan, I'm sure I'm saying this wrong, City of Gods. This is a game that's been out a while. And the reason that I thought we would do a review is because the brand new 2024 Kickstarter Deluxe Master Set just arrived about a week and a half ago, maybe 2 weeks ago, on our doorstep. And this was actually my first exposure to this game. So I figured, you know what, let's do a review of this game. Largely, since the game's been out so long and so many people have played it, this will pretty much be like a component review. The Deluxe Master Set includes all of the previous expansions that were launched for the original version of the game. So I'll talk through those briefly as well. And then I'll tell you my thoughts on the game itself and how it plays. So the Deluxe Master Set is rather large. And if you've played Teotihuacan, you know that the box is not nearly as big as this one or thick as this one. But that's because it includes everything. So the way I would describe this game is it's kind of a Euro style worker placement game where you can move your workers around to 8 different locations on the board. This here is the main game board, and I know that the camera's going to shake today. I'm sorry for that. And so you have these 8 different locations that you can visit, and on some of the locations you have 2 different ways that you can place your workers. You can either place them in what's called a worship space, or you can take a main action on the board. The third option you have when you visit a space is to collect cacao, which is another resource in the game. So a lot of games nowadays, I think, are borrowing ideas from this game, or maybe this game borrowed ideas and then it was kind of, blossomed from there. But there really isn't any blocking here in this game, which I really like. When you visit a space, you pay cacao for the amount of different color workers that are present on the space if you want to take a main action. Or you can, like I said, worship there, and if someone's worker is occupying that worship spot, you can bump them out. So there's worker bumping. The other mechanic that I've seen that's borrowed is that of worker improvement or growth. So your workers will start out at power 1, and they're represented by a D6. And as you take main actions around the board, you improve the strength of those workers. And when they improve to strength 6, they ascend, okay? And you get an ascension bonus, which is quite powerful. And then the worker becomes strength 1 worker and goes back to location 1 in the palace or whatever it might be for that particular game. And the idea of the game here is that you are trying to please the gods and rebuild the pyramid, temple, build some buildings out there, gain some honor. And you're going to do all of this in 3 different kind of moon phases. There will be what's called an eclipse counter, and as the light counter passes the dark counter, that would signify 1 eclipse taking place. The game is played over 3 eclipse periods, or it's played over as many eclipse periods less than 3 if the pyramid in the center ends up being built all the way. So that's the basic gist of the game. You're going to score a bunch of victory points for doing different things. There are a bunch of different spaces you can visit. There are 3 standard resource spaces: gold, stone, and wood. And as you visit these, the more workers you have and the more powerful they are, as you visit the spaces, the more powerful your main action becomes. So, for example, you probably can't see this very well, but on the 3 space right here, okay, this is the stone space. And if you come with 1 worker in the stone space, you would reference the first row of powers, which is either gain a VP, gain a stone, or gain 2 stone, based on the lowest strength of the worker you have present already there. And then the more workers you come with, the further down the track you go, and the lower strength that you come with, you reference the columns. So, for example, the strongest action on the 3 space is to advance a 3rd worker on the space where there are already 2 of your workers present, and have the lowest strength amongst all 3 of those workers be a 4, and that would gain you 4 stone and 5 victory points. In my experience, it's very rare for that to occur, but if you are able to do that, then that works out. If you ever go to a space and take a main action with 1 or 2 workers, you would improve 1 of your workers. If you end on a space where you would have 3 workers present, you're going to advance or grow 2 of your workers instead. So you can advance quicker in that way. The worship spaces allow you to move up what's called the temple track. This is the temple track over here. And the base game comes with 3 temples: the blue, the red, and the green temple. And this is how you're going to earn development tiles and other bonuses such as wild resources, cacao, or victory points by moving up the temples. Also, you'll gain what's called the development tiles, and you'll gain some end-of-game VP if you're able to reach the end of the temple. So that's how you do that through worship spaces and some other things in the game. And then you have a building space way over there. That's the number 6 space, where you can place buildings out, little buildings, and then move up something called the Avenue of the Dead. That is a victory point multiplier at the end of each eclipse. And then you also have space 8, which is the construction space. That's for the main pyramid in the center. And the way the pyramid is built up is you have to build a solid foundation in level 1. And then once you have enough tiles at level 1, you can put a level 2 tile on that, and then level 3 on top of that, and so forth. You can also decorate the pyramid with decorations, which will improve your favor, improve your pyramid marker over here, which is also another multiplier, VP multiplier at the end of every eclipse. The more workers you come with, and the stronger the more resources you have, the higher up the temple you can build. The more workers you come with, the more temple builds you get for that action. Pyramid build, sorry. As you place your temples down, you're going to gain VP according to what level that you place it on. And then any shapes that you are matching, icons that you are matching here on the pyramid tiles already placed or on the floor level, you will also gain temple moves if they match a color, or you'll gain a bonus VP if they just match a symbol. And that, I think, I have covered most of the actions in the game. And as I said, when you move your workers, you're going to move them clockwise around the table. Each turn, you get to move 1 worker 1 to 3 spaces. And like I said, as you go along, if other people are occupying that space that you end on, if you would like to take a main action, you owe 1 cacao per worker there. If you'd like to collect cacao, for each color worker that is already present on the space, you would gain 1 cacao. Plus 1 cacao for visiting the space. And then the worship action, as I said, you can lock your workers up. So as you enter a worship space, your worker is considered to be locked, and it cannot be unlocked unless you take a free action, not a free action, an action that isn't going to cost you any cacao, but it passes your turn, and that is freeing all your workers. So you would take all the workers that you have locked in worship spaces, and you would free them up, and they would enter the general area of the space in which they are. And then at that point, the next turn, you are free to move your worker. You can't move a worker that's locked up. At any time, you can also free your workers for 3 to count. So you can do that before your movement or after your movement. That's just the inefficient way to do it. There are a whole lot of other things happening with this game, and if you play with all the expansions, it has a number of modules that interact together. So let's get into that. So the Deluxe Master Set comes with a measure of books and player rates. So you have the core rules book, which is thick but also very good and very comprehensive. And then we have the modules book, and this outlines every expansion and how to play with it and incorporate it into your game. The only way I haven't played this game yet is solo. I'm curious to do so. But it seems that they have made a mess of solo play, which I'll talk about in a second here. They've corrected it, but they made a mess in the book. So these are the modules, how to incorporate them, what the setup is like, and pretty much what the modules are going to do is they're going to replace almost every station you have out here with a new station template, and those are here. So you would take the game board and you would, instead of your construction location, you would use another 8 construction location and cover that up, and it's kind of an improved action based on the module that you're playing. So there's pretty much one for every single location. And the game comes with many extra boards. Okay, so that's one thing. These are all cardboard components, and the main game board is cardboard components. The Deluxe Master Set comes with play mats for everything, except for the new locations. And I'll talk about those play mats in a second. But the cardboard board has 2 sides to it. One's an alternate art. They are the same, except for one misprint that's on the board, but they're meant to play the same. Okay, and the cardboard board does just a fine job here. I really like it, and I actually prefer it over the cloth playmat game board, but I'll talk about that. So anyway, one of the modules comes with all these different locations that you will place out on your board, and it will improve the main turn abilities there. Okay, so this is the module book. It is very comprehensive and very involved. It's encouraged that you play the regular game first several times before entering into the modules. I will tell you that about 2 games into this, I feel like we were ready for the modules, and the modules make the game far more fantastic. That's just my opinion, but that's kind of the way it is. The next book here in the box is a much-needed appendix. The appendix is wonderful. It outlines every single different tile, character, space, icon, all the iconography in the game. It does a good job of doing it, and it's very well organized. So if you're ever lost or confused on what something does, you can always reference the appendix. The appendix is needed pretty much in every game. Everything's listed in order, so if you need to know what an altar tile does, it tells you what page to find that on. You need to know a region benefit, it tells you what page to find that on. I think they did a fantastic job with the appendix for this game. The next thing that the box comes with is the Expert Challenge book. I have not delved into this yet, so I won't really speak too much on it. I have looked at it to see what it is, and it seems to just be an alternate setup, kind of like a scenario for any player count, really. Most of the time, it's 2 to 4 players. Just on my first cursory glance, I didn't see any solo scenarios in here, but that's not to say that there aren't any. Oh, there is solo support. Okay, so it does tell you how to incorporate solo play, which is good. But anyway, they're broken up into different books, like book 1, book 2, book 3, and it's kind of like a little bit of a story or a challenge that's named. So, for example, the book 2 challenge is called the Decoration Challenge. So that's kind of what you're going to be doing in that game, is focusing on that decoration piece. Okay, so the Expert Challenge book, which again adds more dynamics to play and another play. Then we get the solo book, and this is a mess. The solo book, it comes with, there's another insert page right here that says, hey, look, we know we screwed up when doing solo mode, and here are all the changes that you need to incorporate to this book. So this is an extra 2 pages of stuff, and I think it's a little bit clumsy of them, but you know, I'm willing to forgive them because it's a very involved game. It's considered a pretty heavy Euro game. But, and like I said, I haven't played solo yet. I really want to, and I think I'm going to. I'm just a little intimidated by it right now. So once I get over that, I think I'll start setting it up and learning how to do it. Okay, then the box comes with 4 really fantastic player aids. And the reason I say they're fantastic is because on one page, it tells you everything you need to know about the game. All of your player turns, your actions, how worker ascension works, how the eclipse phase works at the end of all the rounds, what happens at game end. And then on the other side, it actually outlines there's a cheat sheet for each module. So if you're playing with different modules, like the mansion module, for example, it tells you exactly what's going to be going on within that module on the player aid. These are great. They're kind of like a little bit like plastic or filmy. These are nice. They're durable. They're going to last. I really enjoy the player aid. I think they did a good job there too. Okay, the next thing is a solo player aid, which again is probably also useful, but since I haven't played solo mode, I'm not going to comment on it. And then is the most disappointing thing about the entire Deluxe Master Set, and that is the organizer diagram. Now, this has been well documented on the forums. You can check it out on Board Game Geek if you'd like. People have given their thoughts and ideas around the organizer. What I will say is developers and publishers were very clear and concise with their communication about how the insert would look. And as far as their communication goes, they did not disappoint. They did disappoint in the delivery method, I would say. This is the world's worst game insert, bar none. Maybe. Anyway, it's really bad. It's usable, but it's bad. And bad by what I mean by bad is that there are many loose components. I'm actually going to bring this over and show it to you close up on the camera so you can see what I mean by loose components. But, however, there's the diagram of how the board, how the insert is supposed to work. Okay, under that, we've got our player mats. These player mats are great. They're dual layered, so everything lies inside of them really nicely. I have the neoprene player mats, and I actually don't want to use them. I'd rather use the dual layered cardboard, which is not the upgrade. The upgrade would be the neoprene playmat. So I prefer using the regular old playmat, player board, because I feel like they work a little better. So again, just my thought and opinion. Same thing goes with the cardboard board. I would prefer it over the neoprene. Then we have a pyramid frame, and this is a nice little overlay that you would place over top of the pyramid place. And what it does is it keeps all of your tiles kind of in order from shuffling around. Really nice touch there. I enjoy that little touch. Okay, and then we have the temple track, which is like a puzzle that you just put together here, and then a board for the modules when you are moving your warriors across the land here in that last module that you incorporated. So those are pretty much the board components. And now let's get into what's happening here. Okay, one part of the organizer is the player trays. There are 4 colors in the game. I do have the 5th player module as well. Haven't opened it yet because I don't anticipate playing this with 5 for a while. But it comes with your standard black, yellow, blue, red colors. The only issue I have here is some of these components are extremely small and fiddly. And there are just so many of them, and there's no easy way to get all of your stuff out of one of these organizing pockets without having to just dump them all in there, no matter what color you're playing. You can try and cover these up with your hand and do that whole little thing. The issue is, again, some of these pieces. Now, part of this, I'm not a small human, and my hands aren't small either, so it's kind of hard for me to get into some of these sometimes. Some of these pieces are really tiny, and they're going to slide out, even if you block all of this with your hand and arm and dump it out on the table. So that would be the issue I have with it. The dice are nice. Again, these are your workers, and that's what marks that. You got your buildings over here. Oops. And that's the first part of the organizer. The second part of the organizer is going to be your resource trays. I have the same issue with the resource trays I do with the player trays. One good thing is the upgraded components for this game, they've already got the decals on them, so it's not like Jerusalem, where you had to put all the decals on each of your little resource pieces. The decals are already there, and there's a nice little 5 block for each of these. So if you have 5 resources, you can take 5 there. In the previous game, you had to actually like put a little marker on a 5 times thing and indicate which resource you have 5 of. This kind of takes care of it. So these components are good. Again, a little tough to get to some of these things because the game tray is deep, which I like. It holds everything, but it's hard to reach in there with fingers, especially if you have some meaty fingers or meaty hands. Those of you that have the fingers and hands of a pianist will not have that problem. If you have sandwich clampers like me, you're going to have some difficulty. Okay. And then there's a third tray here, and you're already going to start to see some of the issues that come out. 3 decks of cards in this game. These are for setting up dummy workers in case you're not playing with 4. There's also some special starting cards, a la Preludes, like Terraforming Mars, which are really nice. I think it's a great feature of the game. There's a default setup if you're not interested in doing that. And then you have some AI stuff that's going on. All right. In this other part of the organizer, you have what's called technology tiles. Technology is one of the spots on the board you're going to want to visit. The issue is, and you can maybe see this, is all of these pieces are loose inside the organizer. There's nothing here holding anything in. I actually use the silica gel packets here to block part of this so the tiles won't shuffle around and move around in here. And you have to organize them too according to number. Don't do what I did and just punch them all out and be like, oh yeah, I don't know how to play the game, so I don't care. Then when you go to set up your first game, it's going to tell you, take all the tiles that correspond to this space and give one to each player. Okay, great. I didn't organize my tiles ahead of time, so that took me an extra, 5 or 6 minutes to get all that situated. All right, so the technology tiles are in there, along with the cards to play them. And now comes the part. All right, the last part of the organizer. You can hear stuff moving around. Okay, we open up here and we get 3 bags worth of stuff. This is all good, okay? And here you have your pyramid tiles. These are pretty nice. All right, they're chunky, blocky. You have your discovery tiles over here, which are also pretty chunky and blocky. These are going to go out on the board, and as you worship, you're going to be able to buy those discovery tiles, kind of like upgrades or once again abilities. Then you have like your deluxe or super discovery tiles. I can't remember what these are called, sorry. But these go on certain spaces, given a module that you're going to enter in the game. All those components are pretty good. And then we head into some more tiles here, which are also good. These go on to different temples. And as you reach the step before the penultimate step, you would get another tile there, so another special ability. And then I'm going to walk this around to the camera because you've got to see the rest of this and the way that this is supposed to be organized. And I haven't, the way that they tell me to organize this thing. And it's still not great. And what I mean by not great is you aren't going to be able to like tilt this game on its side. Okay, you're going to have to lay this one flat on the shelf. It's a minor complaint, but it's going to have to be done because all this stuff is going to move around inside. So I'll walk this around to the camera real quick just to give you kind of a view. But well, there it is. Okay, so one tiny tilt, and there goes some of the cards. Okay, I don't know how to give you a better view of this, but inside here we have several different sets of tiles that are all loosey-goosey. Now it tells you how to organize them and where to put them according to the arrangement in the box, but there's nothing here holding any of this stuff in. This is all just loosey-goosey, and it can all get shuffled up at any one time. You saw earlier when I did this. Okay, some of these tiles can slide around. You have all these small little pieces that are just going to move wherever they want. Okay, again, minor complaint. They told us what the insert was going to be, so I can't really begrudge them too much on that. components aside, I like the quality of the components. I would score the quality of the components rather high for this game. I think you're going to look at, mid 80s level component quality. So the organizer is not enough to hold me back from the game. I would not punish the rating of this game too bad based on an organizer, because I don't think it's very fair. I do think this game deserves to be played, and so what I would say is, mechanically speaking, this game is great. It's very solid. It's fluid. There is a lot going on. However, it's one of those like maybe medium to heavy Euro worker placement games with what I would call heavy layered strategy elements. So within the game, you have a lot to pay attention to. This is not one you're going to want to sit down with your AP friends for a long time and play, because it's going to take a long time. In the two-player version, Lewis and I are able to blitz through this in about an hour, which is pretty good. So that's a 13-year-old and then me playing. And we hadn't known the game before we started playing the game. So I think that the game is pretty good in that way. It's easy to learn, but very tough to manage on the board. It's tough to figure out a strategy that's going to work, and I feel like it's one of those games that you're going to need to play several times over in order to develop your own play style with it. That's a good thing. Don't take that as a criticism. I think that's a good thing. The first couple times you play this game, if you play with someone who's played before, I think you're going to get smoked. But it's one of those things where you're going to learn along the way. And you're going to say, oh, you know what? I probably could have done this a little more efficiently, or my movement could have been a little better. Efficacy of movement is important because the action spaces are going to cost you resources based on who's already there and present. So, yeah, medium to heavy Euro worker placement game with very heavy layered strategy. The more modules you place into the game, the more complicated it gets. There is more stuff to pay attention to, more things to remember on your turn, more spaces to interact with, but they're, again, giving you more options. And I do think it does make the game better. The rule book says, hey, take a couple times, and then in one sentence says, no, you know what, just throw everything in there and just have at it. Honestly, I think that might be the best way to go all in, throw everything in there, and have at it. If you want to learn the game, sure, play the base game 1 or 2 times. It's about all you need to understand how the game works. You're not going to play it optimally with all the modules the first couple times you play it, but at least you'll get a sense of how this game works, and then you'll be able to start developing strategies for everything when everything does come together. So I think Teotihuancan's game system is fantastic. I think it deserves to be played. I'm sad to say that I didn't play it the first time that it was around. I'm glad to have the master set now because I can play as much as I want. I'm going to rate this as a 2024 game, only because the Deluxe Master Set did release in 2024, and it was the first time that I played it in 2024. And since those two things collide, I'm going to call this 2024. Sorry for those purists who think maybe I'm wrong for doing that. But when our top 10 of 2024 come around, this game has a real shot at being in there. Thematically speaking, the theme is present in this game. Lewis always says, like, the theme runs the game. Well, in this case, he's not lying. Like, it's true. You can feel like you are sending these little workers off to do these tasks where the main goal of the game is to please these gods and build this giant pyramid or decorate the temple or, put these buildings out or move around the map and take over some land. You can feel that. And if you really just take your time with this game and settle into its theme, the theme is present. You can say, oh man, my worker, like, it's ascending. And then once it ascends, like, that's like a worker ascending, and then a new life is born, and it's a power 1 worker. It's a young worker. And the more I send the worker out, the stronger they get, the older they get, and the more powerful they get as they go. So the theme is definitely there. I feel it throughout this entire game, especially if you start incorporating like the priest and priestess module here, where you get like asymmetric game abilities. You get one like boon, and then you get one drawback, kind of. So yeah, this game is great. It's fantastic. If you don't have a copy of Teotihuacan, Go out and get one. You owe it to yourself. If you are a Euro gamer who enjoys worker placements, this is a game for you because it's comfortable. You don't have to worry about that whole, oh, well, this space is blocked, that space is blocked, so I can't do anything. And he went there and had ruined my whole entire turn. The options are always there for you. The turn is wide open. You always feel like you have stuff that you can do. So I think it's great. I would highly recommend this game. When Lewis comes back, maybe we'll actually give it a score and write it up. But leave me a comment. Tell me anything I screwed up, which I'm sure I did. Also, tell us what you'd like to see. Some future content that you can expect is Undaunted 2022 Callisto came the other day. That was my most anticipated 2024 game, and I am eager to tell you how I feel about that game. Also, as a family, we are currently running through a Gen Con released copy of Ziggurat, which is a legacy adventure game. And so far, on the second chapter, I can tell you that game's going pretty well, and we'll be eager to review that game for you in addition. Towards the end of the year, you can expect our top 2024 games, top 10 of 2024 lists to be released. So if you're curious about 2024 games, stay tuned for that. We have the Unmatched tournament that we're working on finishing up. And, we have the Moon Rollers review to do as well because that arrived the other day. We did play that with a larger group, so we'll be able to give you a fair assessment of that game. Sorry the content's been lacking the past couple of weeks. We've been out of town every weekend with soccer. But, once that starts settling down, we'll be able to produce more videos for you. Hang with us. Give us a like. Give us a subscribe. And as always, stay true, man. We are the Cave People, and we love what we do. And remember, you want honest-to-goodness reviews from hearts of gamers that are unpaid, unadvertised, and anything unhinged. We're your people. All right. Thanks for watching.